passed down from antiquity. The first one's Om, spelled normally A-U-M, and it gets truncated, as most languages do, when the vowels come together, and we just pronounce it as one syllable, Om. It's indicative, it's the sound of our original source, and it contains everything. So if you chant this, you won't have to go shopping because you won't need anything else. Everything's here complete in the mantra. And that's really, although I say it slightly tongue in cheek, there is a way in which when we chant mantra, because it resonates with ourself, as we look at this picture, you kind of see the energy center in the heart. That's somewhat accurate. It's very accurate in the sense that the living force is there within the heart. When the living force leaves the body, then the body becomes useless. And if we weren't witnessing the body, which is made of matter, then the body would matter. And it doesn't to us once we leave it. In fact, all matter doesn't matter unless we're observing it, because we're conscious and matter isn't. So the mantras come from the fully conscious world, and they penetrate the darkness of matter. So this picture is appropriate. Also, within the heart, the Srimad Bhagavatam says, is the eternal vibration of Om. It's going on there naturally. And when we speak it with our vocal cords, we resonate with the sound that's already there within the heart. And that's one mantra. I'll just review them really quickly. The next one is Nitai and Gauranga. And these two mantras, or these two names, Nitai and Gauranga, relate to the two avatars, Nitai and Gauranga. And they are teachers in this present age that we're in called Kali. They appear to give a practical process through which anyone from any position in life can come to full consciousness. And they're known to be transcendental entities. So when we say Nitai and Gauranga, we connect with them. And the third one is the Mahamantra. And the breakdown of the words we saw flash by our eyes just a second ago. And we have Krish, which means the whole of existence or attraction. Na, which means one who ends material suffering. And it also relates to bliss because it's found in the word Ananda, which means bliss. Rama means enjoyment arising from spiritual existence. And Hare, that's how it's pronounced. Hare, the spiritual energy of the original conscious source. As our conscious source has unlimited energies. So you get, and I'll show you the mantra. Just by magic, it'll change. Just by me saying that. That's my prediction. And I like that it's over a bridge too, because these are a way to connect from one energy to the next. You can think of it like that. And this is pronounced Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we'll start with Om, and I'm going to give a drone C. I'm switching over into original sound for musicians. Thanks to Zoom for giving us that. And take a moment to sit up a little straighter than you were and close your eyes and bring your attention to your breath and relax, but keep an alert mind. We're going to go on a journey within. As you breathe, exhale any anxieties you may be holding. Just let them go out and assimilate with the external environment. And when you breathe in gratitude for your life. Just relax and be in the present moment. Let go of any conception of the future or the past. Those are all thoughts. We can only be here right now. Bring your awareness to your right foot and just notice the sensations in your foot, and mostly notice that you have the wherewithal to transfer your awareness wherever you wish. You can't feel your foot in the future. You can't feel it in the past. You can only feel it right now, because that's where we always are. And move your attention to your left hand. Just feel it right now in this moment. Bring your attention to your right cheek. You can feel your face, how it's alive, because it's being animated by the conscious being within the heart. And now, just step back as the seer and notice your own thoughts and see them as energies. You can notice them because you're the noticer. You can note, oh, here's this one, here's that one. They're not you. They're just passing clouds of energy that relate to our material bodies, but we're aloof. And now bring your attention to your heart, source of consciousness. We're there within the heart, and so is the Paramatma, the supreme consciousness, supreme spirit within the heart. And let our consciousness be fully fixed there by resonating with the sound vibration that's already there. And I'll say Om 3 times in the key of C. If you like, you can follow along behind muted mics. Om. Take a few natural breaths, and we're going to proceed to the next mantra, Nitai Gauranga. And I'll say this 3 times. Nitai Gauranga. Nitai Gauranga. Nitai Gauranga. Now come back to your natural breath. I will do the 3rd mantra, the Maha Mantra, with the 3 words Hare, Krishna, and Rama. And I'll say it 1 time. You can follow with me if you wish. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now just notice the vibrations, how they've entered into your mental system. A potent combination of 3 mantras. Bring your awareness back to your breath. Move your fingers and toes to get some external awareness of your body. And then gradually open your eyes. We'll come back into the Zoom room. Now, today's topic is a story about the fish and the elephant. And the fish and the elephant were the subject of much conversation in the forest because they seem to be two very different entities, and they are. And there's a story in it or a lesson in it for all of us. So let's take a look at the opening slide, because seeing the contrast between the two will help introduce us to the story. So we see here in the first slide that the elephant, thank you for that accompanying music. You just take my word for it. There's a big difference between a fish and an elephant. And go to slide number 2. So first I'll talk about the lesson. And the lesson is about adaptation. To adapt means to adjust to new conditions, according to the dictionary. And literally, there are new conditions at every second. No condition that we're experiencing in the world is the same as another, although our minds categorize it in that way. It's always changing. I try to hold on to it and make it the same. I try to hold on to my physical stature. That's not possible. It's changing. I try to hold on to my financial situation. That's always changing. Relationships change, everything changing. Now we'll come to the story of the elephant and the fish, which comes in slide number 3. And here we see the gigantic elephant. Now, who's stronger, just as far as an earthly animal goes? Well, the elephant by far has such power that he can knock over trees. And the little fish, what can a little fish do compared to the elephant? If the elephant and the fish met, then the little fish could easily be crushed just by a little pressure from the elephant. The elephant's much stronger physically. But then we see when there's a strong current in a river, the fish easily navigates. It even plays in the fast current, but the strong elephant will be washed away. So now that brings us to the next slide, and the teaching is this. In slide number 4, we see the world around us, a typical scene, public transportation. It seems to be typical also that everybody's looking at something. And one of the lessons that Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita is the modes carry us away unless we learn to rise above them. And rising above the modes of material nature requires us to adapt to them. And that's the subject of today. And that's why it relates to the fish and the elephant. Because just by physical strength, that is, by fortifying our situation the best we can in this world, by our own efforts, we will at some point be washed away by the powerful forces of time. Time comes and takes us away. But if we learn the lesson of the fish, who is taken shelter of the water. That little fish can exist easily within the water. And what's the parallel to the Bhagavad Gita? Well, Krishna talks about how to rise above the modes of material nature by one's attitude and practices. And this is something that requires adaptation or adjustment in our life to become more like the little fish than trying to get stronger and stronger like the elephant just to be washed away. So let's see if anybody notes anything about the picture today. What observations might you can you make? Do you have which you might report on? It all means something, so let's see if you can extract the meaning. Oh, I better check the text box because I see some things coming in.
Zila, I think she says nice.
Yeah, but she said it at 12:03, so
Yeah.
that meant whatever was at 12:03, she said it was okay. Okay, so Mukarvin says you
Vicky.
have various choices to make in any situation. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, in this picture, like I can see that the one current picture was showing in that people are doing different things. They're all going to same destination, but during the destination, they can do different things to make what is their future lies. Someone can just be in the doom scrolling and do nothing, and some can be learn knowledge about higher self or to become better. So that's what I was inferring from that picture.
Why is it called doom scrolling anyway? Can anybody tell me? I've heard that phrase, but I didn't take time to look it up. Nobody knows? Somebody asks some entity like ChatGPT or something where that word comes from. Yeah, okay, thank you very much, Mukarvin. That is a astute observation, in my opinion, about the picture. Let's see what else there is, James. Go ahead.
Yeah, Vicky had her hand up. Vicky,
Well, that's good.
Partly from the picture, but also partly from the meditation. I was just reflecting on how when you're at the beach and you don't want to get swept away by a wave, you try to go under the wave. And during the meditation, I was thinking about how gratitude is independent of time, place, and circumstance. And at any moment when we see something harsh coming on, which will happen, we can take shelter of the internal energy.
Wow, I like that a lot. And it's so true. Those who are used to wading out into the waves or even trying to ride waves know that if you if you're not out there in time, you have to actually dive underneath the wave. If you try to use brute force against the wave, you'll be smacked around, to say the least. And I like your point about how gratitude is a state of mind that helps one go past or navigate the various forces of the mind. Is that what the parallel was?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mukarund did post doom scrolling definition if you would like to read that, Mukarund.
Yeah, this minute, unmute. Yeah, so it means spending an excessive amount of time continuously scrolling through negative, distressing, or upsetting news article or content online, especially on social media. It is a compulsive behavior where a person keeps consuming bad news, often leading to increased anxiety, stress, and negative mindset. This term gained prominence during the COVID-19 pandemic and is linked to the mental health issues like anxiety and depression. This behavior is often fueled by social media algorithm that keeps showing emotionally charged content, making it hard to stop scrolling.
Yikes. Thank you, Carmen. There were a couple comments above
Yeah.
that too.
Just to that, Manish just posted. We used to hear men are social animal. Now in this age, men are social media animal.
Social media animal.
And he also said everybody seems to be engrossed in their own mini world.
Mini world. Welcome to Mini World.
And Bhakta Matya said we get carried away by what society in general is doing.
Hmm.
And MJ said, no one is connecting with anyone else. Everyone is in their own world.
Yes, and you might note in the picture that everyone except for one person in the forefront is doing exactly the same thing. Well, you might say it's the same thing. You're reading something, looking at something, but there could be a difference there because the woman right in the front is reading a book. Everybody else has their phone out. And I'm not saying inherently that it's wrong to be on your phone, but the indication here is that you might make a different choice to change the mode, even though you're in a similar environment and everybody else is doing the same thing. And we, as Bhakti Matthias said, we get carried away by what other people are doing, but we can make a choice to rise above the modes. And the symbolism here is that somebody might, in the same environment, choose a topic that is uplifting rather than that is doom-inducing. And this is the life of the fish. The fish has adapted to the water. And although we're in the material world, wherever we go, we're surrounded by it, we can adapt to the modes of nature in such a way that we can rise above them, not being swept away by them. And that requires what we'll talk about in a minute, three elements that Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita. So thank you for this picture. I'll go into the three keys to adaptation or adaptation. And what we have here is humility. It's an unlikely sounding way to adapt to the modes of nature in the world, those powerful forces that thrust themselves upon us, which move us in certain directions beyond our will. Humility. We might say that the fish, from an existential point of view, is humble compared to the elephant. It's a tiny little fish. Elephant is so strong and mighty. So what's the strength advantage? The humility of the fish. It's being very small, and its body shape, which would indicate our mood, where it correlates with that in the metaphor, helps us to adapt to the world. So humility is one, and we'll go into these in more detail. And the next one is self-control. You see that woman in the middle who's exercising her right to concentrate within and become aware that I'm separate from my mind, I'm separate from my body. And then the third key that Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita is search for the absolute truth. We're always searching for something. We have a sense that if I just get this or that, then I'll feel complete. So he points out that our search should be pointed, and there you have the little compass above, towards what is called the absolute truth. We could also refer to the Srimad Bhagavatam. What do we mean by absolute truth? The source of everything, including ourselves. People look in the depths of the ocean, huge funding for going as deep as possible to find out what's down there. Studying particles from outer space, does it have anything to do with our origin? So it's a natural tendency of the human heart to want to find out what his or her origin, say, where do I come from? And understand that source from which everything else emanates is one aspect of searching for the absolute truth. So those are the three. We can come back into the room. Can anybody say what the three are after he takes them down?
Self, I can say.
Yes, please go ahead.
Humility, self-control, and search for absolute truth.
Do any of those resonate with you?
Yes, I think humility for sure resonates me.
You're getting a big congratulations from JM for naming all three.
And so Yeah, anyway, I'll ask question after your presentation.
Okay. Humility, self-control, and search for the absolute. For those who,
Zila also posted the same thing on the chat.
okay, give her one of those things then too. Here, wait. Congratulations. That's important. So remember these three and attend to them. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, you'll be able to adapt yourself to the ever-changing world and the mighty forces of the modes of material nature. Go ahead, Jayam.
Yeah, there are a couple of comments. One is from Nicholas. He says, like attracts like, but it's our choice to be aware of it and break out of it.
Nice point.
And Vicky says, self-control resonates. I like that you said the woman was exercising her right to concentrate.
Wow. Yeah, that's true. We have a minute independence to choose where to place our attention at any given time. And we get a return on our attention. It's called ROA. I may invest my attention in something extremely valuable, keeping aware or developing awareness of my existence beyond the body and the source of my existence, or in mantra meditation, practicing being aware of the mantra. Over the weekend, I was in Toronto. We were up there for 7 full days, 8 or 9, including travel days. It's a long haul up there. It's on the East Coast, way at the top. And every day we conducted, except for the very first morning we were there, every day we conducted seminars on mantra meditation early in the morning. And the participants felt that they got a lot out of it when we had reflections at the end of the week. Just taking time to listen to the mantra and bring one's mind fully into a state of attention. And then also practicing noticing if the mind goes away and bringing it back. This mantra meditation is a kind of investment and a type of practice of self-control that has an ongoing systemic effect in our lives when we practice it. Meditation is very powerful. In fact, we were just this morning, JM, we had a early morning meeting. We're preparing to meet this professor from Carnegie Mellon University, and who's been studying the effects of meditation. And he had mentioned the multi-benefits that one gets from that. So self-control is a practice. Yeah, definitely. Good. So let's look at the individual elements. Now, humility is often misunderstood, but in slide number 6, we give a definition that my teacher gave that I carry with me. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. And that's a hard one because the false ego, the sense that unless people recognize me, then I'll be bereft. I need to be noticed. I need to be honored and so forth. This is one of the teachings of the Golden Monk, Lord Chaitanya. He gave this statement that if you want to go deep into self-realization, then practice being humble. And he said, think of a blade of grass, how humble a blade of grass is. Somebody steps on a blade of grass, it doesn't complain. And again, let me give a disclaimer because this often comes up. This doesn't literally mean to become a doormat in one's life and suffer abuse from people who are ignorant. I mean, it could. There are tales of sages who have tolerated everything in the world. That's for us in a very practical way. It doesn't mean if somebody's bullying us, we shouldn't take uh, the correct measures to counteract it. But what it does mean is to keep a humble state of mind, to tolerate the minor trespasses that are imposed upon us from moment to moment. And it said, practice respecting others and see if you can practice not expecting any respect in return. Now, that's one of the aspects of humility. And another aspect is to be aware that whatever ability we have is coming from a higher power because it can be taken back in any moment. A meditation that my teacher gave me many years ago is available in writing in one of his books is being aware that every one of the senses that we have, as an example, seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, can be taken away at any moment. And unless it just comes back on its own through healing or through it being given back to us for any number of reasons, we have no independent power to make our eyes or ears or sense of taste work. During the COVID period, I remember I lost my sense of smelling for a little while. And I thought, well, that just happened. So what am I going to do about it? Like, well, nothing really, because there's nothing I can do. It's just gone. And it could happen with any of our senses. So my teacher said, be aware that they are being powered by something that's beyond us, beyond our power. We're helpless in that sense. We're utilizing our senses, but we can't independently make them work. And how do you feel about, would you be able to tolerate not being given respect by others? Really think about it. If you weren't given respect, even when you felt you deserved it, and you may very well deserve it in many circumstances, or just for being a living being, you know, there should be some sense of respect. But have you ever been in a situation where you had to tolerate not being given respect? How did it make you feel? Do you think it's possible to do?
Zila just said that's hard, but maybe you have to do it from a distance.
What do you mean from a distance, Isla?
Like maybe you can understand and have, respect, but not engage. So you don't put
Uh-huh.
yourself in the bad situation, but you can appreciate the other perspective at a distance.
I see what you're saying. Very interesting. Yeah, be a little aloof and try to objectify the situation. Because there's a natural way of, from the false ego wants to immediately react and say, why wasn't it respected? I'm not being respected enough, and so forth. But if you can step back and see people may be distracted, they may have their own agenda, and so forth. Anybody else? Have you ever felt the sting of not being respected?
There are a couple of more. One is Manish says, gratitude can also help to inculcate humility.
How so?
And Manish,
Yeah, Prabhuji. So I was wondering that the lack of uh, thankfulness for the things that we have and the craving for what we don't have actually puts us into this continuous, you know, uh, go ahead, okay, sense of achieving something, but feeling of, what we have, the friends, family, the teachings, the associations can actually also bring in fulfillment in our life and some satisfaction, and that can help us being grounded and being humble.
Yeah, it's a nice point. I think, didn't Vicky, you bring up something earlier about humility? No, about gratitude. I mean, it seems to be a panacea, that sense of gratitude. Thanks, Manish. That makes a lot of sense. And Manu, go ahead, Jam.
yeah, Manu posted, it definitely feels hurt to the ego, but hearing about these topics help.
Yeah. Well, in his teaching, the Golden Monk said you should practice giving respect to others and not expecting respect in return. That means we should be prepared for it. and think about trying it and see. And maybe another show on another on a different venue, we had asked this question about if you do a good deed for somebody, but they don't know about it, they don't even know you did it, is there any reward? It seems to be in the same realm as this other thought experiment. Do you get any reward for doing something for somebody else and nobody acknowledges you? After all, we notice that a lot of people give anonymous donations and they do things anonymously. What reward do they actually get? And so it is a sort of exercise in suspending that sense of I have to get something from this, that I do something, I should be respected for it, I should be honored for it. But do you get anything if you don't expect or you don't take any honor or respect? Do you get a fruit from that itself? Not that we're expecting one, but I'm just asking, is there anything that you get that's noticeable when you tolerate not getting respect from others? Let's ask Manu. She's out in the world and works in many different spheres, raising a family, holding seminars, working in the corporate world. What's your experience?
Not getting rewarded. I think you get inner satisfaction. I think that inner peace that I mean, basically, at least you're not you didn't do anything wrong and you're doing the right thing. So
Yeah, a sense of peace. Interesting that one might feel some sense of peace when we don't have to chase after the result. And we might feel inwardly satisfied just by doing that. That's a phenomena we could look into. In fact, that has a lot to do with self-realization, that what we are is already satisfying. We don't need to add anything onto it. No extra thing can make us happy besides knowing ourselves and knowing the origin of ourselves. And perhaps the topic we've talked about before is, and this comes up in what Manish is saying here about good karma, good deeds come back in other forms, when we're aware that there's a universal witness to everything that we're doing. Nothing goes unrewarded or what's the action punished in this world? And if somebody thinks they got away with something, according to the law of the ubiquitous witness, nobody gets away with anything. So if you do a good deed, and it's not again that you're expecting, I want something in return, but that inner satisfaction will be there. And just the awareness that everything is being attended to in a completely just way in this world gives us a sense of peace.
I have
Just
one
to
comment.
Yes, please go ahead, Nirali.
So one thing I noticed that sometimes, I feel like I'm doing the right thing, but when you sometimes have to be assertive and say, it's kind of hard when people have agenda or trying to take advantage and you see it and you try to stop that, in a nice way. But it's hard, like, it just sometimes feel that I feel like what will happen, in the sense, will he disrespect it or will it go into more argument, or, things like that. And maybe I'm thinking about my image at the same time. So feel a little anxious, like, hey, if I tell because he's stepping over or, that person, and then you have to tell like, hey, let's be fair, and all that kind of thing. Even though I'm not doing anything wrong, I feel still anxious. So I maybe it's just my nature to protect my image, to be always nice to others, and maybe that's what making me anxious. So I feel like humility is there, but I don't want to humiliate myself, in that sense.
Sure. And there is a way in which as we're as we work in the world that we may also have the necessity to point out things that we've done so that they're not the good work that we're trying to do is not violated. I mean, some people, when they create something, they get a copyright for it, for instance,
Yeah.
that your name's on it. Somebody may try to steal it or usurp. So straightforwardness in ordinary dealings and doing the needful when there are transgressions from
Yeah.
others that may be necessary. Apparently, especially in the corporate world, because this comes up a lot, that people are often inconsiderate when other
Yeah.
people are humble. So
Right. They take
humility,
advantage. Yeah.
yeah, it may take advantage.
Right.
So again, humility doesn't mean to be a doormat, and it doesn't mean to allow people to violate your property rights or your intellectual rights or take away your wealth unnecessarily.
Mm.
But it has more to do with an awareness that everything's being counted and recorded that I'm doing. I'm also not the doer,
Right.
that I'm acting as an instrument.
Yeah.
But I mean, the wisdom literatures are very practical also. They mention that you should do your due diligence in the world. If there's a transgression, do your due diligence to counteract it. Somebody tries to burn down your house, and it's like, I should just be humble and let them burn down their house. That's not the idea.
Yeah.
We are given a certain quota to protect and use for the ultimate goal of life, and we should protect our body even. It's not humble. This is not the idea of humility to stand there and be attacked by somebody. We have
Mm.
to protect ourselves. That's not the opposite of being humble to protect yourself. But really, it's more an awareness that uh, we're not independent in what we do. Not
Right.
taking credit for things means that we realize that it was possible only with the grace of many other people and even the idea I get and I claim propriety over it.
Mhm.
Where did the
Mm.
idea come from? Came from, I just keep using this phrase higher power because it seems pretty,
Right. Right.
yeah, that it came
Yes.
from a higher power, and they have that kind of humility. You see it sometimes in people who are very wise. They realize that, for instance, they may be great thinkers, but they've realized that even their thoughts come from somewhere else.
Mm.
That they at some points they feel helpless, and until there's a revelation, and
Mm.
that comes from it descends, so
Right.
I'm not independent, that type of thing.
Yeah. It's just the feeling that it's sometimes weird in the sense, even though you're not doing right and you're being assertive, but sometimes you feel that uneasy, or maybe it's I'm still stinging to my image, I feel. So that's the struggle. I think it's just that weird being, even though you're not doing wrong, you feel that.
Definitely. And that's the dichotomy of this world. And that's why we go through these exercises and talk about it because we are in a suspended state. We are conscious beings, spiritual beings within a material environment. And to find balance in those two takes some thoughtfulness. And hopefully, in the discussions of these major points, we're fortified a little more as we move about. We don't feel as uneasy, but
Yeah.
we do have to deal with that constantly. I agree with you about that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nirali. Okay, Jam is bringing us back to the slides because he knows that the time goes by very quickly. So the next item is self-control. And the definition here is purposeful, non-random engagement of the senses. So we have senses when they're engaged randomly, which looks like what's happening on the left-hand side there. The person's somehow surrounded by all these social media insignias and indicating that he's scrolling. And the other person is very focused, has focused purpose. So purposeful and non-random engagement of the senses. So really controlling the senses mean we have a higher plan for them and we use them to achieve that plan. The highest of plans is to come to self-realization. And to use the senses for that purpose means self-control. Otherwise, the senses are like horses. And if they just carry us away wherever they want to go, because the senses are not controlled by the reins of the rider, we can end up anywhere. And when we're able to control our senses, says Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, then we're not subjected to the strong currents of the modes of nature. Because, as he mentions in the Gita, when you're able to regulate the senses for a higher purpose, you become the master of the senses, then, as he said, raga dvesha vimuktaistu vishayan indriyaishcharan atmavasharabhate deyatma prasadam adhigachati, you'll experience a higher taste. It's called prasadam, that there's grace that comes into your life. What to speak of, the word discipline from antiquity, the etymology of it is, it's from Latin and it means learner. One who learns the lessons of life by being self-controlled, by pointing one's senses towards the ultimate goal of life, is happier and well-adjusted and not pushed around by the waves of this material nature. And the third is search for the absolute truth. And we see here on the left, the sort of external focus. We have Times Square, or maybe that's downtown Delhi, I can't tell. Somewhere, I mean, it could be anywhere in the world where there's this enticement to just go everywhere, buy everything, look at everything, and it becomes random. And on the right-hand side, you see someone who's searching, as Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita, Prajahati Adakaman Sarvan Parthamanogatan, becoming aware that the multitude of desires that are flowing into the mental system are part of the material world, and we're aloof from them. And one can experience the satisfaction of focusing on what's permanent, being aware of the fact that I have only a tenuous relationship with the world, but I have a permanent existence. Just the flicker of understanding of that gives one a standing in this world like no other. And that is compared in the Srimad Bhagavatam to eating a meal. When you're very hungry and you eat a meal, then you feel satisfaction. When you're very hungry and you look at the world or you go shopping, I've mentioned this before, don't shop when you're hungry, then you could buy anything and be swept away by this need to be filled up. And so when we are filled up, when we're searching for the absolute truth and connecting to our original source, to what's permanent, we feel such satisfaction that we're not enticed by the various elements of the world that are calling to us, like sirens. This from ancient stories we hear how the sailors had to be tied to the mast of the boat when they were passing certain places because the sirens were singing out these songs that would attract the minds and hearts of the sailors. And so that's how the world is. It's calling to us, come here, come there, and enjoy this. But when you're anchored within, you're tied to something higher, then you're not swept away. So big, strong person in the world, but when a wave comes, he or she's swept away by commonplace desires that are attractive even to the animals. Raccoons get attracted to the call of nature. They hear it in the forest, they run off. You can't tame a raccoon. Well, I guess you can, but at least in the book my father read me when I was a kid, there was a raccoon. The kid made a pet of it, but it ran away when it heard other raccoons calling in the forest. So it's like the person who has become fully aware of what's most satisfying is not subjected to that call of the wild. And finally, we come to reflections. Anything you heard that's stuck in your mind from the beginning of the program until now, what's your one takeaway? You can either speak it out, Bhakti Mateus, or you can write it in the chat box.
Hare Krishna, Vaishesha Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. I like what you said about after one experience that taste or that reward of controlling the senses, then it's kind of like a upliftment. But then also I had like a question because also in the Nectar of Instruction in the verse 1, Srila Prabhupada talks on the purpose that maybe like a thief, not that it's not good stealing, but still he does it because maybe he's not intelligent. So the intelligent people know what to do just by hearing, and the less intelligent people know by experiencing. And sometimes after experience it, they still may not get it. So how can we understand that, like for our life and our habits? Like, okay, I've experienced this higher taste of controlling the senses, but then like, oh, like I seem to be in the same place again. So how can we break like those? Just like learning how to be the fish.
We have to hear more. When the intelligence becomes fortified, it's tested in this world, like metal when it's tested by fire. It gets stronger. That's why case hardened steel is impenetrable practically, because it's been tested by fire. So we also have to live in the world and experiment with these three keys. And we'll notice that the tapasya, meaning the trouble we take to execute these three things, it causes us some trouble, but nothing compared to the trouble we get from just being randomly engaged in the world. It's miserable. And so, yes, we have to fortify the intelligence. And when the intelligence becomes fortified by enough hearing, then we achieve what's called nishta or steadiness. We have a standing in the world and we're not pushed around by the modes. It's very important. In order to get a taste, first we have to have 2 feet on the ground so we can jump up high. Get that steadiness by hearing. Okay, let's have a few more. We still have 2 minutes left. Good question, Bhakti Mateus. Thank you.
Vicky had a long message. Vicky, do you want to summarize it?
Yes, thank you. It's in response to the question from earlier. One thing I feel that I gain from not getting quote unquote acknowledgement or respect is a sense of determination because it brings me back to the purpose of why I did what I did and would I still do it again? And the answer is yes, because as you said, no extra thing is needed. And that seeming lack of something I may have felt I deserved then turns into a gift because I get that realization. But as we were talking about earlier too, I am human and there is a moment of hurt. And in that sense, looking to with gratitude to others, such as yourself, Joanne, Manu, Mukarvinda, Radhakripa, that really helps. And Manu's advice from earlier was very helpful that keep coming back to these spaces where I can be among like-minded seekers and continue to hear about these topics. And then in that sense, human can become a superpower because it helps me reconnect with the method of the little fish.
Sorry, I had to write it down. Thank you very much. three takeaways for me are self-control, humility, practicing that, and also continuing one's search for the absolute truth are worthwhile, and they have a profound effect in helping us to rise above the modes of material nature and become self-determining in our lives. So they're worth the trouble. And thank you all for taking the trouble to join the program today, even on a holiday weekend. It was a delight to somehow or other keep the vibration going. I have JM to thank for it and have all of you to thank for joining today. I think we should leave on a joyful note, and that reminds me of some very joyful yogis I've seen high in the Himalayas. What they do when they're departing, they raise their hands in the air to one another and they say this phrase, Hari Bol, keep the transcendental vibration going. And they all feel very satisfied that they've acknowledged one another and encouraged one another. I was just thinking it might be a good idea to try it as we're leaving. I'm going to do it. Hari Bol.
Haribol.
Haribol.
Thanks, everybody. Great to
Haribol.
see you. Have a
Thank
fantastic
you.
week.